Someone commented on our last video asking for Washington state facts, so here you go. In 1859, the United States and Great Britain almost went to war over a pig. Warships, soldiers, international tension, all because one pig had a taste for potatoes and zero respect for property lines. And that's not even the weirdest thing about Washington. Wait until you hear about the bridge built just for squirrels, because apparently even rodents deserve crosswalks in this state, and the tiny fairy tale village that fooled people for years using nothing but chicken feathers and glass. If you love facts that sound completely made up but are 100% real, hit subscribe and comment what we should cover next. A state, a country, a city, whatever you want. Stick around, because today we're covering the rain, the volcanoes, the coffee, the pig that almost started a war, and a whole lot more. Let's count it down. The Hoh rainforest out on the Olympic Peninsula is the only temperate rainforest in the lower 48 states. We're talking moss hanging off of everything, ferns as tall as people, and rainfall that can top well over 140 inches a year in some spots. That's not a typo, that's over 11 feet of rain falling on the same patch of forest every single year. Which explains a lot about why everyone in Washington owns 4 raincoats and 0 umbrellas. Real Seattleites know umbrellas are basically a tourist costume. You can spot a visitor from a mile away, fighting the wind with an umbrella turned inside out, while the locals just calmly get a little damp and keep walking, completely unbothered, sipping their coffee like nothing's happening at all. Back in 1963, the town of Longview built the Nutty Narrows Bridge, and yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. A tiny wooden suspension bridge, built specifically so squirrels could safely cross the street between a park and an office building, instead of getting run over trying to dash across traffic. Somewhere, a city council member fought hard for squirrel infrastructure, stood up in a meeting and said, with a completely straight face, "We need to talk about the squirrels." And honestly, respect. It's still standing today, decades later, quietly saving squirrel lives, one crossing at a time. And it's actually recognized as the oldest known squirrel bridge in the entire country. Which, by the way, means there is more than one. Somewhere out there, other towns are also out here building squirrel infrastructure, and nobody told the rest of us. Washington almost had a totally different name. When Congress created the territory back in the 1850s, lawmakers originally wanted to call it Columbia, but somebody pointed out that might get a little confusing, seeing as there was already a Washington, D.C. hanging out on the other side of the country. So they scrapped it and went with Washington instead, which, to be fair, has caused zero confusion ever since. Nobody's ever mixed up rainy Seattle with the nation's capital. Never happens. To this day, Washington remains the only state named directly after a president, which honestly feels like it should come with some kind of trophy, or at the very least, bragging rights at Thanksgiving dinner. Seattle claims the world's first gas station, in addition to being the birthplace of the world's first Starbucks, which opened back in 1971 at Pike Place Market. So basically, this one city invented both the caffeine addiction and the way to drive to go get more of it. Today, there are more than 38,000 Starbucks locations around the entire planet, all tracing back to one small shop by the fish market with the original green and white mermaid logo hanging above the door. Not bad at all for a rainy little corner of the country that just really needed some coffee to get through the winter. Washington grows more apples than any other state in the entire country, and it's not close. On top of that, it leads the nation in sweet cherries, pears, and red raspberries too. If you've ever bitten into a suspiciously perfect, crisp apple from the grocery store, there's a very good chance it came from an orchard right here in Washington. The state even developed its own cherry, the Rainier cherry, that sweet pink and gold one you pay a little extra for at the farmer's market and complain about the price and then buy anyway, every single time. So really, Washington's been quietly keeping the doctor away for the entire country this whole time. One apple at a time, while the rest of us take all the credit. The chandelier hanging inside the state capitol building in Olympia is so massive it had to be specially reinforced multiple times just to survive earthquakes without crashing straight down onto the people below. Nothing says great interior design choice like hanging several tons of glass and metal directly over the heads of government officials. You'd think after the first earthquake scare, somebody would have politely suggested maybe a nice floor lamp instead, something a little more grounded, pun fully intended. But no, they just reinforced it, crossed their fingers, and kept right on going. Out in Kittitas County sits the ginkgo petrified forest, home to more than 50 different species of petrified wood. That means actual ancient trees slowly turned to solid stone over millions of years, buried in ancient lava flows and preserved almost perfectly. It is, hands down, the slowest transformation in recorded history. And somehow it still manages to be faster than getting anything done at the DMV. Washington is home to 5 active volcanoes, all part of the Cascade Range, including the massive Mount Rainier, which pulls in roughly 2 million visitors every single year. It's a gorgeous, snow-capped, incredibly popular tourist attraction that also happens to be considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the entire country, mainly because of the enormous ice cap sitting right on top of it, which could trigger catastrophic mud flows if it ever erupts. So basically, millions of people show up every year to take pictures next to something that could, technically, wipe out everyone nearby. Very on brand for nature, if you ask me. Beautiful, majestic, and also quietly plotting. Back in the early 1900s, someone built a bizarre miniature fairy tale village out on Vashon Mori Island, using nothing but chicken feathers and spun glass to fake out lawns and trees. On a plot of land that stretched across roughly 26 acres, we're talking tiny 4-foot buildings designed specifically to fool people looking at it from a distance. It's basically the original blurry Bigfoot photo, except somebody actually put in the effort to build an entire fake neighborhood out of craft supplies. Respect for the commitment, honestly, even if it is deeply unsettling to picture in your head. The Long Beach Peninsula holds the title for the longest continuous beach in the entire country, stretching out farther uninterrupted than anything you'll find in sunny California or Florida. Which feels deeply, deeply unfair because Washington also has the rain, the volcanoes, the mountains, and apparently now the best beach too. Meanwhile, California's out here trying to claim the beach crown with way better weather and way less moss. Pick a lane, Washington. You genuinely cannot have everything. Washington's state flag is the only one in the entire country with a green background, specifically an Irish green. Every other state went with the usual blue or red, and Washington just said, nope, we're doing green, thank you very much, which is honestly pretty fitting for a state that is basically 70% moss at this point. At least it's consistent branding. And now, back to that pig, because it absolutely deserves the top spot. In 1859, an American farmer on San Juan Island shot a British-owned pig after it kept raiding his potato patch over and over again. Just one angry farmer and one very hungry, very persistent pig. But the pig belonged to the British Hudson's Bay Company, and the British authorities were not exactly thrilled about it. They threatened to arrest the farmer. The American settlers, understandably nervous, called in United States troops for protection. In response, the British sent actual warships into the harbor. Within weeks, you had armed American soldiers and British Royal Navy warships staring each other down over a single dead pig. 2 global superpowers standing right on the edge of actual war over a potato patch. And somehow, remarkably, cooler heads prevailed. Nobody wanted to be the officer remembered for starting a war over livestock, so both sides agreed to a joint military occupation of the island. That lasted 12 surprisingly peaceful years, while diplomats slowly worked out a permanent border agreement. In the end, the entire standoff was settled through international arbitration without a single shot ever fired at another human being. The only casualty in the whole affair was the pig. So next time somebody tells you a small disagreement is getting a little out of hand, just remind them, it could always be worse. It could be the pig war. Which fact caught you off guard? Comment below with what we should cover next. A state, a country, a city, anything at all. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. See you in the next one. Oh yeah, and go Seahawks!